How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm well. Congratulations on 60 years.
Yeah, I'm congratulating myself because I never would imagine 60 years here we are still having fun. Wow, I'm loving it. So thanks to all our many wonderful fans the world over that we are still around 60 years later.
I love that. I think 60 years into a band's career, a lot of groups would put out a greatest hits compilation or something like that. I love that you made an album of original music.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to do. We want to give our fans something, a better offering than just coming out with another greatest hit, because they been so supportive. And especially when you know the history of the Temptation, whereas we have gone through so many different personnel changes and people still love us and accept us even with all those many changes. I wanted to give them a fresh, brand new album. And it's a thank you to our many fans.
Do you think that says something about the Temptations that you're still making original music 60 years in?
Well, I'll tell you what it says is that we love what we do. And, when you have the supportive fan like we have, you just give back. And, show business is so fickle. If you can last 5 years, that's a milestone. So to hang around for 60 years, that's even more of a milestone. So I'm just blessed, that Temptations have been really received and loved, because like I said a few minutes ago, the history of the Temps, we've lost some heavyweight players. David Ruffin, Eddie Kendricks, Paul Williams, Melvin Franklin, Dennis Edwards, Ollie but yet the Temptations still, roll on. Like we said on Papa Was a Rolling Stone. Well, we still rolling on, but I attribute it to all our wonderful fans and accepting us to be around for 60 years.
I want to talk a little bit about the history of the Temptations and a little bit about how the group has changed over the years. But I want to listen to a little bit of the new record. Before I do that, one thing that crossed my mind while I was listening to this was that the experience of being in the studio singing into a microphone with the Temptations must be a little bit different now than it was back then. Can you tell me a little bit about that? In the old days, were you around 4 microphones in one room? Is that different now?
Oh, and one thing we've learned, the one thing that's constant in life is change. And when we started off back at Motown during the 60 and 61, everybody, the musicians, the wonderful band, wonderful funk brothers, the Temptations, whoever is producing us, be it Smokey Robinson or Norman Whitfield, we would all be in the studio at the same time. So to come from that to now when we go into the studio, it's just primarily we sing into track and whoever the producer is, But other than that, it's not like it used to be because we used to have fun when we all recorded together, and especially with the Funk Brothers, because they were noted musicians, and so we would run down the track. And if they would make a mistake, we'd get on them. Because if the Temps made a mistake, all you doo-wop singing, see, y'all can't never sing nothing right. Y'all got to come on. And so we said, okay. But when they made a mistake, we would ride them. The producer said, all right, Temps, y'all cut it out. We got to record this record. So we had those kind of wonderful fun days back during those days. But today, like I say, it's almost like an isolation kind of recording with just the Temps, whoever is producing, and the engineer. And that's it.
Is the group singing all at the same time, or are you singing at different times?
Oh, yeah, no, we still sing at the same time. And a lot of time it depends on the method. Each producer would have his own way of like to record. Case in point, when we did Is It Gonna Be Yes or No with Smokey Robinson, who also wrote it, produced it, and performed with us on it. We all were in the studio together. And then when it was time to put on the leads, then it became an individual person at that time, and then Smokey did his little lead, and then whatever guy had a part, he would go out there and do that. And so that's the process that we do now.
I want to listen to that track. Take a listen to this.
Ooh, baby, what you gonna do, baby? Have you thought it through, baby? Is it gonna be yes or no?
From their new album 60, that's the Temptations featuring Smokey Robinson and Is It Gonna Be Yes or No? Tell me a little bit about this collaboration. And you guys, Smokey Robinson has been a big part of the story. He's written some big hits for you guys. I mean, you guys were together in the early days of Motown really taking off. What's it like when you and Smokey are in the studio working on a song like this?
It's like magic that never ends. Because we have been in the studio with Smokey since a while, back during the 60s. And when we did this recording for Smokey, it was like nothing changed. If any changed, it was better. So that's the wonderful magic that Smokey Robinson and the Chimps still maintain after all these years, and how Smokey became a part of this is because Derek and myself, we were riding coming from a dealership, car dealership, and him and I were talking, and I said, man, we're getting ready to do this here 60 album. It would only be right to have Smokey Robinson on it because Smokey was the one that started us with The Way You Do the Things You Do, My Girl, Since I Lost My Baby, and some of our earlier hits. So I called Smokey and I say, hey, Smoke, I want you to be on this album with us, man. He said, and he calls me Oak, O-A-K, Oak. Okay, Oak, I want you to write it and produce it. No problem, Oak. And I said, aside from that, I want you to sing. Whatever you want, Oak, I'll do it. So that's how it came about. And Smokey is on the album with us, and he sounded sexy, and he used that sexy vibrato. I said, Smokey, you being bad. I know why you're using that vibrato like that. You're making the women want to get upset. So we had fun doing it.
Why does he call you Oak?
He calls me Oak because he would tell, Barry even calls me that. He said, Otis, you've had some wonderful, powerful singers around you. But if it wasn't for you, there would be no temptation. And he said, because you just held the group together in spite of all the things that you have been through. That's why they call me Oak. He said, Oak like a strong oak tree. And I said, wow, thank you guys. He said, no, that's why Smokey and Barry call me Oak. O-A-K, strong as oak.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Take a listen to this.
You got a smile so bright. You could have been a candle. I'm holding you so tight. You could have.
That is The Temptations with The Way You Do the Things You Do, one of the greatest songs of all time. You moved to Detroit from Texas when you were 11 or 12 years old. It's a big move. And Detroit to me in that era feels like I can't even imagine what it was like. What was it like? What was Detroit like when you got there?
Look, when you come from Texarkana, Texas, gravel roads, like I said, I tell people I used to run up and down in gravel roads with coveralls on, barefoot, holding hot water cornbread in my hand. And when you come from that kind of environment to move to a big city, whereas I was mesmerized with all the cars and all the people, so it was a heck of a transition to adjust to, and I'm very glad that as fate would have it, my mother had me to come up to Detroit because little did we know that's where everything would start happening for me as a, artist. But it was a heck of a transition to come from a little country town, Texarkana, Texas, to a big city like Detroit. And I think at the time, Detroit was number 5 as one of the largest cities in America. So a wonderful experience.
Do you know that old song, She's My Texarkana Baby?
Oh, wow. No, I can't say that I have.
It's an old country song. Ray Price, I think. You know Heartaches by the Number?
Yeah.
Yeah, same guy. He wrote this song, She's My Texarkana Baby. It's a great song.
Oh, my hometown is really beginning to take on another shape and form. I hear tell that they're doing some wonderful things there. So I have yet to go back. I haven't been there in a while, but I'm going to go back and see the progress of the Texarkana, growing. But wonderful ride.
I'll send you that song. So you I mean, I think what's interesting here is that as an Oak, not just of the Temptations, but really of the mythical Detroit that I have in my mind, of the incredible scene that happened around Motown. You get on Berry Gordy and Motown's radar. Motown artists become these music legends, almost, bigger than life itself. What was it like inside the Motown offices?
Motown almost would take on the form of a community center, because you would go up to Motown even if you didn't have to record. We would hang around up there and, sit and talk with various artists and producers and songwriters and what have you. And it was just another kind of wonderful vibe being there, you know. And one of the things that I would tell people that, you know, you come to Motown and you sit out on the steps on the lawn, and James Jamerson, the famous bass player for the Funk Brothers, he was into martial arts. And Berry Gordy was into boxing. He was a boxer before he became successful as president of Motown. To see them sit out front and see Berry Gordy get in his boxing position and Jamerson get in his karate stance. And then neither one of them do any of that. Boy, I'll whoop your this and that down. I'll knock your shoulders up. And we stood there and laughed. But it was fun. It was that kind of fun being there watching the president of Motown and the Funk Brothers bass player act like kids.
You know, Berry Gordy being a boxer doesn't surprise me because I think you have to have that kind of mentality to have the success that he had, that persistence, you know.
Yeah, that was Berry. Strictly picky human to the minutia. You know, how he want things to be. And, I'm just glad that, it happened because he is still a funny, wonderful man at 92 years old. You know, so Berry was something special. Rather, he is something special because he's still here.
The Way You Do the Things You Do is the song we played. That was a life-changing, career-changing song for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. You know, Smokey was telling me at one time when the Miracles, they were on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and I guess they were having fun in their cars or however they were, being transported, moving about. And somebody started, "You got a smile so bright," and they led on up to what it is now. You know, so one day when Smokey got back into Detroit, he called the Temps, and at the time, the Temps consisted of Eddie Kendricks, Paul Williams, David Ruffin, Melvin Franklin, and myself. So he said, "Oh, I got a song for you guys. Come on up to the studio." So it was a cold January night, winter. I never will forget it. As we walked to Motown, and we got there, and he took us upstairs to the rehearsal room. So Smokey sat down at the keyboards, and he passed out the lyrics. So I'm reading the lyrics, and I'm saying, "You got a smile so bright. Could have been a candle. Oh, and he's so tight. Man, what the? This is some jacked up stuff." So, okay, we go downstairs and went in the studio and we started recording and putting the lyrics and everything together with the music. And when we finished it, I stood there and I said, "That's pretty clever." So I came back and I told Smokey, I said, "Man, you and whomever helped you write this here, you made something that was so nonsense, like you made it into some common sense or nonsense. So whatever." And next thing you know, when they released it, it started running up the charts, and it has been, that's one of the songs that we can never take out of our lineup. And I tell the guys, The Way You Do the Things You Do, My Girl, Just My Imagination, Ain't Too Proud, we can never take those out of the lineup. We have to, whatever new songs, like the song that Smokey have out on us now, we have to find a special kind of way to insert it in the lineup. So My Girl and The Way You Do the Things You Do are their main stage in the lineup of the rundown of the show.
Let's listen to a little bit of My Girl.
Let's do it.
I got sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold outside, I've got the month of May. I guess you say, what can make me feel this way? My girl, my girl, my girl, talking about my girl, my girl.
I'm Tom Power. My guest is Dr. Otis Williams, founding member of The Temptations, who have just released an album of new material called 60. The band is celebrating their 60th anniversary this year. We're looking back at that legacy. I got a couple of questions about this song. First, what do you remember about recording it?
I remember when Smokey came to see us at the 20 Grand in Detroit, a noted nightclub, and he came to see us, and he was so knocked out over our performance. So when he came backstage, he was saying, "Man, the show was great. You guys are fantastic." And then he stopped, and he looked at David Ruffin. He said, "I have a song for you." And us being young, man, bring it on. We can sing anything. So we went to the Apollo. The Miracles was headlining, and we were co-starring, and we rehearsed My Girl in between shows. But when we finished the Apollo and came back to Detroit, and we went into the studio to put the voices on, so we did the harmonies and did that. And then, like I would always say, when Paul Reiser added the strings and horns to My Girl, it gave it a whole nother kind of daylight. And I'm listening, I said, my God, look, this song has turned from being just a song to something else. So I came out of the studio and I went into the control room where Smokey was at the control board. And I said, man, I don't know how big a record this is going to become, but this is going to be a big record. They released My Girl December of 1964. February of 1965, we were at the Apollo Theater. Mr. Gordon, the Supremes, the Beatles, Jules Podell, various people sent us telegrams congratulating us on having a hit record. So, and I have that telegram that the Beatles and the Supremes sent. I have it right here in my home today. So My Girl is forever special.
What did the Beatles say?
Congratulating us having a #1 record.
I still think that song is so beautiful, and I never get sick of the chorus, of the layer of the my girl, my girl, my girl, you know?
Right. Oh, Smokey being the wonderful writer, producer that he is, along with the late Ronnie White. They did a marvelous job. I don't even think they realized how big a record that My Girl would become, and it has since been noted as a possible standard, so we never would imagine that a song that we recorded would take on the hue of being becoming a standard.
But Otis, tell me the truth. Like when that song gets that big, and like there's like 3 songs ever that have gotten that big, and you can't go to a drugstore, you can't go to a pet store, you can't go to a shopping mall, you can't turn on the radio without hearing My Girl. At a certain point, is it a bit much?
Never. How am I going to say I asked too much? When people are loving it, just like I am loving it, and I've been singing it since 1965, and here it is 2022. Never a bit much. Because, like I said, show business is so fickle. It's that when you do get a hit record that the world, not only America, that the world has come to know and love, I could never get tired of that or get sick of that, because then they look at me and be talking about, are you all right? Because that's a standard, boy. That's a beautiful song. It's so apropos for commercials, getting married, when you're trying to get next to your lady or whatever, so it takes on a whole another kind of hue as far as loving it and accepting it for the song and the melody that it is.
That's the most beautiful thing I can hear. And that, of course, was the beginning of so many Motown hits for the band. Ain't Too Proud to Beg, Get Ready, I Wish It Would Rain. I wanted to talk a little bit about this song.
People moving out, people moving in. Why? Because of the color of the skin. Run, 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 but you sure can't hide. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Vote for me and I'll set you free. Rap on, brother, rap on.
From 1970, that's The Temptations with Ball of Confusion, a track from their more sort of psychedelic soul era, and also a very politically conscious song. I'm interested in this time for the band. What was happening in the world that created this for the band?
Well, what was happening in the world was just what the lyrics are saying, Ball of Confusion, which we still are. Here it is 40 years or so later. But Norman Whitfield and Barrett Strong, they wrote it, and they wrote the hell out of it, because it depicts what was happening then as well as what's happening today, So it's one of those songs that will forever be around because it's speaking the truth, and like I would always say, whoever would have thought that little 2-story family flat, 2648 West Grand Boulevard, would come along during the 60s. And like I tell people, the 60s were the most tumultuous decade within the last 100 years. And so we were singing the songs that was happening to America in particular, and Norman Whitfield and Barry Strong, they wrote the hell out of it. And it depicts on what we were going through. And like I said, still going through it today.
Did it feel like a lane change for the band?
We did. We took that change because we like to keep it interesting. We don't want the Temptation to be stagnant, just in one groove and we can't do anything else. I have been fortunate enough to have guys that we could sing anything. Somebody bring us a song. I got the guys around me here that had the capability of singing, whatever was needed to be performed. So, we just always been very lucky to sing about the times, sing about love, sing about depression or whatever. So it's a song that I really, and they still enjoy us doing it on stage too. So it's another song that really, really strikes a chord with people.
I tell you, when I listened to it again yesterday, and I thought, do you know that Billy Joel song, "We Didn't Start the Fire"?
Yeah.
I felt like Billy Joel, I think he might have, not that he took a little something from it, but I could tell he was obviously inspired by that song,
Oh, well, that's a compliment. Billy Joel, I mean, he's a bad man, so if he wanted to take anything from the Temptations by way of what we do in music, that is complimentary to the utmost, because, we used to do one of his songs.
For the longest time?
No, it's oh, wow. And when I read up about the song, he wasn't going to put it on the album. And some young lady heard it, and she said, oh, no, you got to put that on there. And it was a huge hit. And we started doing it, but I can't think of the name of it because it's been a while.
You've had a lot of songs, and you still have a lot of songs.
Yes, we do.
Let's listen to a new song, sort of on the same track as the last one. Take a listen to this.
Stand up for the right. She's trying for the people. It's time. The darkness to the light. She's trying for the people to get the job done. It's time.
From the new album 60, that's The Temptations and Time for the People. I mean, I see an obvious parallel between Ball of Confusion and Time for the People, because you say, Ball of Confusion, here we are 40 years later, and sometimes it feels like not a lot has changed. Talk to me about what you wanted to say in this new song, maybe as opposed to 40 years ago.
Well, I give credit to Ron Tyson and our conductor, T.C. Campbell, in coming up with that song, because we always try and put our songs and albums that will spread wide, not only ballads and not only up tempos, not only funk tunes, but social conscious songs. And that's one that is very apropos because, what we're going through over here in America about all this racial stuff. And so Ron Tyson and T.C. Campbell did a great job in bringing that together. And it's in keeping with what the Temps are known for far as having those kind of songs that have different inflections where people can identify not only with great ballads and funk tunes, but social songs. So it's in keeping with what the Temps have been known to do.
I want to play another song from the record. Take a listen to this.
6 foot tall and tan, Southern gentleman, dressed impeccably. Yeah, Paul, Otis, David, Blue, Eddie, and Dennis too. Oh, what a pedigree. Yeah, we're soul brothers.
Temptations and When We Were Kings from the new album 60. My guest is the group's founding member, Otis Williams. That song is sort of about the band's history, the band's heyday, and the song names, as you just heard, some former members of the Temptations who are now gone. What was it like for the modern members of the Temptations to sing about the older members of the Temptations?
Well, the guys that's in the group now, they know the history, so there's no objections or anything like that about singing the truth. That song came about to me, and when I wake up in the morning, one of the first things I do is thank God for letting me start a new day. And it was an epiphany, because after I said my morning prayer, it was like he said, Otis, you're getting ready to do a 60th anniversary. You should do a song about the Temptations. And I thought for me, I said, okay, who do I want to have help me do this? I thought about Smokey, but at the time, Smokey was a little under the weather. So the next person I said, only other person that could bring this together would be Nada Michael Walden. So I called Nada Michael Walden and I said, hey man, I got an idea I want to put on this album. It's about the Temptations, and I'd love for you to help me out with it. And after I told him the concept and some of the lyrics, and I said, I want to call it When We Were Kings and what have you. And Nada said, oh, Otis, man, thank you. Thank you for calling me and asking me to do it. And he did such a wonderful job. And I have also on there the great Larry Graham on bass, because I said I wanted armpit funky. I don't want none of that synthetic stuff that I hear a lot of musicians playing. I want it so funky that you sweat, and that's what, yeah. So that's why it's got that funky groove with Larry Graham down there and Nod on drum. I can't think of a young man on guitar, but he put the track together so wonderfully well that, it really depicts the Temptations, from the beginning all the way up to today.
I mean, you must feel a lot of emotion singing a song like this about your old bandmates.
Oh, I can. Yeah, I do, because I stop and think back, wonderful guys, talented beyond all rationale. Paul could sing anything, not only, ballads, but he could sing when I first met Paul and Eddie, they were singing, "A foggy day in London town, hit me down, let me ride out in the morning with such a laugh." I said, wow, these guys singing progressive songs. So when you have guys like that, when you have guys that can sing like that, and then they can turn around and sing some funk, R&B, and beautiful ballads, so I had the best of both worlds, when I have guys like that, and then Melvin down there in the basement, so I was covered all the way around. Like I said earlier, I had the pleasure of having some of the best singing voices in the business.
But you've been clear that, and you've talked about this over the years, that what's the line I've heard you say a couple of times? People love the Temptations, but the Temptations didn't learn to love each other.
Yeah, that's got some truth to it. Sad to say, success could be such a big spoiler. It's a wonderful thing to have and to achieve. But you got to watch it then, because when you get in a certain position of having power, a certain amount of power, and you're making good money, it can change you. It depends on what kind of person you are and how much you let success change you. So I must say we did shoot ourselves in the foot, and that's part of the reason why I have gone through so many changes, and I would never, ever sit here and denigrate none of the guys, because I love them still, even though they're no longer here. But they helped build something that, like I told Eddie Kendricks before he passed, him and I talked. And I said, man, I love you. And we did something that's going to be, even when we're gone, it'll be love. And he said, Otis, I love you too. And, so we loved each other, but, success can be a strong, powerful aphrodisiac. And hey, here it is that I've had to go through. I'm almost up at a point of 30 different guys that has been in the lineup. And if you can see behind me, that's part of the guys, some of the guys. It's about 3 more that needs to be added, but here we are, still enjoying it. I just turned 80, October the 30th. I'm riding the hell off the horse. When I get off the horse, it's going to be ball.
How come you're still here?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, I said this, I try to take good care of myself, because we're in a business that's, it will drive you into whatever if you let it. But I still love what I do. Music is such an escapism, for us all when we get in certain doldrums, and I still want to be here, as long as I can be here. And so it's a wonderful ride, even though I have the history of, changing members. So, and I never would imagine that my life story concerning the Temptation would be a smash hit on Broadway.
Yeah.
Broadway. And then now it's out on the road and it's doing wonderfully well. Like I've always said, you could have tipped me over with a feather if I would have imagined that my life story, what, Broadway? Not me, you kidding. And people tell me, Otis. I talked with Anthony of the Imperials, and he went to see it in Fort Lauderdale. Anthony called me, and he said, man, I saw your life story of the play. He said, I cried. I said, well, welcome to the neighborhood, Anthony, because I did too when I saw it. It's a different perspective when you can sit and watch yourself and see how people are receiving what they're seeing up on stage. And when I'm in the audience and people are sitting around me, they would look at the play, and then they would slowly crane neck around looking at me. And I said, yeah, I'm crying too, and they would laugh and go back to looking at the play, So it's just a wonderful evolution of having such a wonderful career. And like I said, I thank God for it, because I never would imagine a little country boy from Texarkana seeing and living the way I'm living. Yeah, like I said, you could have tipped me over with a feather before I would believe it.
Before we go, I want to play, after our interview is over, I was hoping to play a little bit of Just My Imagination, because it's my favorite.
All right.
Can you tell me something about it before we do that?
Well, Norman Whitfield and Barry Strong, they wrote that, and Norman, whenever he would come up with an idea of a song, at the time I lived in Detroit, and he came to my house, man, I got this beautiful song that it just came to me, and I'm going to do something with it. So he played it to me. At the time, it was just bare boned, he let me hear the track was, okay. There again, when we went in the studio, and see when Norman took us in the studio at 7:00 in the evening. Well, we walked out at 1:00 that morning. Eddie Kendrick stayed, put the lead on. And I called Eddie the next morning. He had just got in about 7, 8 o'clock that morning.
Oh my God.
But Norman Whitfield was a taskmaster. But when Jerry Long added the strings to Just My Imagination, I said, oh my God, this man laid some strings, because it gave Just My Imagination a whole nother uplifting kind of feel. It sounded like a movie thing, and I was super impressed. And that is one of the songs that, again, like I said, we can never, ever take out of our lineup, because people love that song, just like you said, it's one of your favorites.
You better not.
Oh, no, we will not.
If I go to see a show and I don't hear that, you're right, man. You're right about that.
Hey, let me tell you this. We made the mistake long time ago after my girl had gone to number one and did what it was going to do. So Paul was running down the rundown of the show at the time. So he said, we can take My Girl out. So we went out and did the show, but we didn't do My Girl. The audience went crazy on us, and they call us every name except the Child of God. So that's one song that will never come out the lineup. So we know certain songs, like I tell them, I say, I don't care how much we record, whatever become a hit, certain songs can never come out of our lineup.
Yeah. Listen, it's been so lovely to talk to you, and thank you so much for all the music. And if there's one thing I'm going to take from this interview, is the idea that you truly are like the oak. You got through it. Smokey's right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Dr. Otis Williams is a founding member of the legendary soul R&B group, The Temptations. The band is celebrating their 60th anniversary this year with a new album of new material called 60.